Last Spartan Standing is a bit of an interesting bag. It takes elements of gun game, battle royales and typical Halo free-for-all and tries to blend them all together, making somewhat of a messy mode. I'm not going to go and say that the mode is an unwelcome addition to the game, but it feels like it's trying too hard to be too many things, and in my opinion it just doesn't work. In today's video I'm going to be talking about my problems with the mode and changes I'd like to see make and what my dream version of the mode would have been. I just want to say if you do enjoy the mode, that's completely fine. This is, of course, just my opinion. It's completely fine if you enjoy it. I just really feel like it's a bit of a wasted potential and it is a bit of a missed opportunity. But anyway, without wasting any more of your time, let's jump straight in. Last Spartan Standing lets 12 players fight across big team battle maps, but right now that is exclusive to just Breaker. This isn't necessarily a problem, however this has been the case for obviously like 2 weeks over the course of the event, and it's kind of made me get tired of Breaker already when it's the only map I can play. I do have some issues with how the mode functions on the map, however I'll talk about that a bit later. First of all, I want to talk about one of the main things, and that's the gun game-esque elements the mode has. Players spawn in with a disruptor and sidekick. As you get more kills, you earn in-match XP or points, which you can then use to level up your weapons. There's 6 levels. You get a mangler, an assault rifle, a commando, a bulldog, and a battle rifle. At first I thought this was a bit of an interesting concept, however it quickly just became annoying, and in my opinion it makes the mode a bit unbalanced. The Disruptor is a very annoying weapon to deal with. I'm not going to say it's bad because I actually like using the weapon. However, when you've got 3 players shooting at you or 2 players, a lot of the time you will die after you take cover because of the damage over time. When every single player starts with it, it can just feel really aggravating. Now, the gun game system isn't terrible as a whole, as it does reward you for going out and getting more kills. However, it can also reward players for playing more campy. You can just hide around corners, pick people off, and you'll upgrade your weapons without really needing to take much of a risk. There's also a problem with the fact that the mode has a life counter, so it's harder to catch up and get some of those better weapons if you're not performing as well in that match. This is why I say that the system overall is a bit interesting, as it does reward you for playing better, however it can leave the mode feeling unbalanced if you're not quite as skilled. It means that some players are just going to start off with better weapons every time they respawn. Of course there is lives, but it just feels really aggravating. I would have much preferred it if everyone started off with like a sidekick or a plasma pistol and had to scavenge for weapons. This would fit with the Lone Wolves theme a bit more, as these Spartans are supposed to be scavengers, so I would have preferred it if you did all start with the same weapon and then you had to scavenge for loot around the map, playing into that battle royale element a little bit more, which the mode clearly already takes inspiration from. I'm not saying it has to be a full-blown battle royale because that simply wouldn't work for this setting, but I wish it played more into the battle royale theme than it did the gun game theme. Having players fight over weapons is already something that you have to do in matches of Halo anyway, so it would be a perfect fit. As I said, there's already battle royale elements anyway. There is some sort of looting element and there's also a zone that closes in. As far as loot goes, this is exclusively just abilities and equipment. Right now you can find overshield and camo from drop pods, and obviously depending what map you're on, which right now will just be Breaker, you can find a piece of equipment scattered across the map. 343 have confirmed they will be making changes to the drop pods and that it will contain every piece of equipment. Now this I have mixed feelings on. I would have much preferred if they just lowered the rate that drop pods fall in, keep it to overshield and camo, but let players know when a drop has fallen in. There is of course a sound indicator if you're close enough, but I think it would have been much more enjoyable if when a drop pod falls in, it gives every player a little heads up, a little marker on the display to say, hey, a drop's just fallen in, there's some good loot here. Braver players would then rush over to try and fight for that loot, and I think that would make the mode, again, more interesting, the same way you would see supply drops fall in on Battle Royale games. I think changing the drop pods to every piece of equipment might actually be worse. This will, again, just sort of fall under the randomness category. It will feel a little bit more unbalanced, because if I go to a supply drop and I just get a threat sensor, but an enemy player gets another supply drop and they get an overshield, that doesn't really feel fair. There's also a zone that closes in on the mode, and this I feel like also has its own issues. Personally, I think it takes way too long for the zone to start closing in. Players can play really campy on this mode, which can be very annoying. At the end of the day, Halo's an arena shooter. It's not something where people should be hiding around corners, so the zone taking as long as it does to close in feels like it almost helps campy players. If the zone started to close in earlier, this would mean there would be more combat encounters, and overall I think it would make the mode a bit more fun. There's also another issue regarding the zone where players can actually spawn within the circle and start taking damage from it. Now, as long as you're not shooting, you take 75% less damage. And the reason that 343 have allowed this is because they said if you spawn within the circle in the safe zone, then players can just instantly sort of spawn kill you. And I sort of get their reasoning, however, I think there's other ways to work around this. I mean, even if I spawn within the sort of the danger zone, if I make my way back to the circle and a player sees me, I'm already at a disadvantage because I might have already lost a good portion of my shield. This has happened to me several times. And I know damn well I'm not the only person that has experienced this. Personally, I think players should respawn with a tiny bit of overshield, whether this be 10 to 25%. Maybe if you do keep it where they spawn within the danger zone, give them a little bit of overshield so they can make it into the circle without losing any shields, or if they spawn in the circle, just give them that little bit of spawn protection so that players can't kill them instantly. I think that would be a much better way to handle it. Respawns have a whole other issue anyway, as the maps honestly just feel too small. I feel like a lot of the time I will get killed by a player, then respawn basically exactly where I died, right in front of that player or in front of another player, and just die straight away. I usually respawn and 3 seconds later there's already someone shooting me in the back and I don't even have time to react. And this comes off as really annoying, and I think this might simply be an issue of the fact that the maps are too small. I know I'm not the first person to say this, but it almost feels like the big team battle maps in Infinite feel smaller than prior games, which is weird because it has a larger player count. I don't really want to see the player count on Last Spartan Standing be lowered, but hopefully the spawns can be worked on, whether that is providing some sort of spawn protection or just ensuring that players aren't spawning within a certain radius of enemy players. Since the mode has a life system, it is extremely annoying when I'm down to maybe like my last 2 lives and I respawn and get killed as soon as I spawn in, losing another one of those lives. A lot of the time, Last Spartan Standing just feels like a real mess of a mode, and that is unfortunate because I was looking forward to it and I was very intrigued by the concept, but after playing several matches, it just feels like a big wasted opportunity. It definitely gives me hope that a Halo Infinite Battle Royale could be really cool, but as a free-for-all mode, I just don't think it works. I don't know whether or not it's the gun game elements or the fact that it's trying to blend too many things together. It's trying to be an arena shooter, it's trying to be sort of a Battle Royale mode, but it's also trying to be gun game. It feels so wonky. It just feels like it's blending too many ideas together, and some of them just simply don't mix well. My ideal version of Last Spartan Standing would have all players spawning in with the same weapon. Obviously, players spawn in with the same weapon anyway, but I'd have all players spawning in with the sidekick or the plasma pistol and have to loot the map for weapons. Similarly, of course, to a Battle Royale, but more of an arena shooter style Battle Royale. Since players are looting for weapons, of course, this may also feel unbalanced if you have to respawn and you've only got a sidekick and you have to deal with someone that maybe has a battle rifle or a sniper. That will, of course, be annoying. So again, maybe ensure that players have some sort of spawn protection. Maybe there can be some places where weapons are obviously going to spawn more frequently. These won't be the best weapons, but it will give players a fighting chance. And as for things like power weapons, there would, of course, be markers like there would on Halo modes anyway. Have the zone close in quicker, because that way combat would be more frequent and matches wouldn't feel like they drag on when players are just hiding. Of course, I don't think my idea here would be perfect. There's probably a lot of issues with it, but I really just wish that Last Spartan Standing played more into the looter side of things rather than the gun game elements. Just another quick issue I have with overshield and stuff like that being present, there's no plasma weapons, so when a player has overshield, they are at a huge advantage because you don't really have any sort of counter, and that really gets on my nerves. So I think letting players loot for weapons, you can have plasma weapons available on the map so they can counter that overshield. I know there is grenades, but half the time it just feels like they don't work. But anyway, that's basically everything I've got to say today, folks. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new here. I'm aiming for 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and I think that's an achievable goal. Let me know down in the comments what you think of my ideas about the mode. Do you agree with what I've said about Last Spartan Standing? Do you like it the way it is, or would you like to see some serious changes made? Anyway, that's all from me, and I'll catch you all in the next one.